Good morning, everyone. How's it going? Okay, I'm just trying to get things in order because I feel like today is going to be a session that's again, I'm going to be trying to find lots of different parts. Um, and so I'm trying to get my things organized here. But we're going to be working with books today. We're going to be altering books. You can work with an old book, or you can work with a magazine or a journal, something like this that's a little more stable. But I've got my psychology today, which I didn't read, but it's been sitting around for a while. Like I could work with this. So this is fine. Like a good magazine is fine to work with as well. So you might just take a couple minutes to gather some basic things. You might get your book. You're gonna need parchment paper or freezer paper, some glue, adhesive, or you can use glue sticks, Elmer's glue. If you don't have either of those things, your acrylic gel medium is great. Even just paint, like we've been talking about, that's an adhesive. So that might come in handy today. And then markers. I will demonstrate how to use an Xacto knife, which is one of these. And if you're going to use one of these, you want some kind of a cutting board or a cutting mat. And we'll talk about that also. So those are some things you'll want to use today. But let me just talk a little bit about altered books and why they're so fun and so awesome to do. So I love using old books as a type of a journal. So you can use this process for journaling approach. Books as a type of a journal. So you can use this process for journaling approach. Creative journaling is what I call it. Now, these aren't going to be like hugely, majorly, awesomely crafted books with pop-out pages and all of this stuff. This isn't really a book arts video. And if that's something you're interested in, if you want to learn like very intense craft and technique, please type that in to a search menu, book arts or something like pop-up books or something. This is more of a way to just free form and try out different creative approaches and even design. I like to use this as something that I would maybe try a small design out on and then work bigger. The other reason why it's really fun to work with books or magazines is because you have text. You have so much wonderful text that you can use. And also, hopefully, you have some images. You have like some illustrations that you can use, or photographs or something like that you can incorporate into your designs. So just to show you like a couple examples of books that I've been working on. This is one, Bernie, if you're out there, I think it was you that gave me this. This is a it's like a memoir by Isadora Duncan, who was the mother of contemporary dance, modern dance. And she died at a young age. She was 50. Look it up. She had a pretty horrific accident I won't talk about. But anyway, Bernie gave me this book and I started reading it. It's really juicy. It's pretty good. And apparently the memoir, her writings were found after she died or she was working on this book. So these are kind of like the unedited memoir stuff. So I've been reading it, and as I've been reading it, I've been altering the pages and doing things to the pages that reflect kind of my response to the book. So that's been a fun project. But I don't necessarily approach all of the books this way, but just to show this, she was a dancer, so there are these images of her dancing throughout. And so I cut those out, repeated them. This is collaged. These were collaged from a different page. So this is what's so fun about book, like working with the format of a book, is it's interactive. You're flipping through the pages, and you get to interact with the book in this whole new way. So I really love it for this reason. I love working with books for this reason. Now, some people are like morally opposed to using books, and if you feel that way, don't use a book, use a magazine. I will just say that for me, I feel like in some ways, like this book may have just gotten pulped and thrown out anyway. Hi Jamie. This is Isadora Duncan, My Life. What was the book you mentioned? I was looking for a book, sorry, yeah. It's a memoir by Isadora Duncan. She's called the mother of modern dance. But like I said, I started cutting into this and then I realized, oh, this is a cool book. I don't want to totally destroy it. I actually want to read it while I'm altering the pages. So that's this book. Just to get on my little soapbox, a lot of these books would actually get tossed out anyway. And if you do choose to do like alter pages, like you're reclaiming the book, you're repurposing the book. Maybe it's a book that you don't like the message, and so you want to turn it around and make it your own message. You want to like personalize it. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of reasons, pro and con, we could have a discussion about. This is a book. Was a wonderful book. It's actually all in German, but it's about this illustrator, a German cartoonist. So there's all these really amazing illustrations in it, and it was really fun to cut into these pages and have this whole interactive experience. So yeah, the book was $1. And if you get a book for $1 at an antique shop or something, I mean, chances are pretty good it's not super valuable. Like, I mean, if you have like the first edition printing of something, oh my gosh, please do not cut that up. But I don't know, like there's a lot of books out there. So also, if you're the kind of person today, you're just like, I want to paint. I don't actually want to like do any collage-y stuff. Something that you can do is take a nice hardy book that you have or magazine and just take some white paint or some gesso and brush it over the pages, let it dry, and I'll demonstrate this in a minute, and you have an awesome sketchbook for yourself. So lots to do. Like there's, we all have a big shelf of books probably, or magazines. So this is a good opportunity to just go through your library again and just see like what do you want, what do you not want. I just want to show this book. Hi, Charlotte. I'm probably not going to cut into it because I'm too interested in reading it, but someone left it. I had a book swap one time. It's called How to Get Rich in TV. And it was published in 1956. And it's just hilarious to me because I feel like we have so many of these things now, like updated versions, like how to start a blog, how to start a YouTube channel. So this is like that for back in the day. So I'm not ready to cut into this. But yeah, this kind of a book is really great to work with. It has little illustrations and nice, cute text and stuff. Hey, Paulette. So any of this is fine to work with. All right, so I am going to have to tilt my camera down when I start the book design and this kind of approach. It's like you just got to get started, and once you go, it's just people just have at it. So at any point you want to just go into your own thing, please do. So number one, preparing the book. It's recommended in a lot of book art things, hi Sarah, that you take your pages, especially if you're working with a book that's really fragile, like older pages. It's recommended that you take some glue or gel medium is fine, and you adhere 2 or 3 of the pages together. So if you're going to do that, what I recommend anytime you're going to use Elmer's glue is pour it out into a little dish and brush it on. Because if you drizzle it on, it gets all uneven, and your papers are more likely to curl up. The more fluid your adhesive is, probably the more paper curling you're going to get in this process. So I actually like to use a glue stick a lot of the times. However, for something large like a page, you'll probably want to brush some glue on there. Okay, Sarah, hi. Connie, hi. Joanne, hi. Got Drew Barrymore's Wildflower autobiography. I think she would love this. I agree. I think she would too. So if you want to prepare your pages by gluing a couple together, you can. Personally, I really like to just work with individual pages. That's my, especially if it's a good, like, solid book, I like to do that. But what you might do, what is important, is you might remove some of the pages, because as you're working, you're going to be adding things to the book. So you might just very carefully slice out a couple of the pages. Now I am going to tilt this, and hopefully you all will be able to see my little workstation here. All right. Okay, so if you feel like you want to remove some pages, go ahead and take, this is an Xacto knife. I would cut it out with this personally, or a scissor. You can tear it out, but then you start to put stress on the actual like stitching of the book. So I usually just cut it out. Now, when you're using one of these, an Xacto knife, at any point, you want to put a piece of cardboard or a cutting mat underneath your page, because you don't want to cut into the pages underneath it. So, I actually wanted to, let's say I need to remove this page. I'm going to slide this in there and get as close as I can to the binding here. Oops, and cut that out. I've just gone into the thing. There. See, and I actually cut out 2 pages because I wasn't paying attention. But yeah, so I've removed these now. So that makes a little bit more room, because I'm going to add things to this. I'm going to add other papers. I'm going to add paint. It's just, if I left all the pages in there, it would just like gradually expand really intensely. So you do want to cut some of your pages out, and you can do that as you're working also. So that's one thing you can do to prep the book. Then the other thing I said is you could take your, take a big brush, something like this, take some adhesive and just brush it all over one page, and then glue the other page to it, and then let it sit for a while like I usually close the book, put a weight on it, and let it sit. And then you have a thicker, more durable surface to work on. So that's another thing you can try doing. We're going to start off today just doing a fun word thing, a fun word game. And like, this is something I think, it's called like a text poem. I think this could be a really cool way to start a day, any day. And basically what you do is open your book to a page that is compelling to you. And then just take a pen or a marker. Hey, Bridget. And just start circling words that are interesting to you, that you see, that pop out to you. So yeah, I'm going to just go ahead. Or, you know, you might see phrases that you pop out or that pop out to you. Yeah. You might see a shape of text that's interesting to you, even. Let's see. I mean, this book is reminding me that with these older books, the language is intense and some of the well, I will I won't get into it. Okay. So yeah, there might be some interesting shapes here in your text that you might see. And just go ahead and circle that or create those shapes in the text. And then take a nice, you can take some white, some kind of like nice opaque color of paint. I'm going to use this craft paint because this stuff is, it's usually really nice and opaque and it spreads pretty well. So now what I'm going to do is just paint around the circles, the text that I just chose for myself. So essentially you have created a poem from the words that you've chosen. And I always like to say that this could be like a good reading on your day ahead. Oops, I'm kind of painting over some of my stuff here. It's funny because I've actually like painted over a lot of the text that I selected. Now, a psychoanalyst might suggest that I did that intentionally. So yeah, now I have this poem, and you hopefully have something in front of you too that you can read through and see if that inspires something in you. I circled, her beauty were all annihilated. So this is just like one fun practice you could do working with text in your book. Now, of course, from here, you can go ahead and continue to embellish this by all means if you want. And, you know, just continue to work with the design of the page. While the text is wet, I might do my favorite thing. And I had a fairy godmother drop off some wonderful new tissue papers and materials for me this week. But yeah, while this is wet, I could maybe like play around with adding some decorative paper, to this. Where is my glazing fluid? This has like pretty foil, or sorry, gold. So it's still see-through. Just want to show you where I'm at here. What type of acrylics do you use? You can use your regular acrylics, but if you have some of these craft paints, they're like these cheap paints you get for a couple dollars each. They're actually pretty nice for this sort of thing, just because they're usually you can get like interesting colors. It's easy and quick to just grab those, and they're also pretty opaque. So I like using them to cover something, but you can also just use your regular acrylics, whatever acrylics you've been working with. Yeah. If you mean like what brand of acrylics, that's a whole other thing. This blue is my ultramarine blue. So yeah, I could use a small brush now and come in here and embellish some of this, make some patterns on there. Another really fun product to try, if you have any washi tape, which is this, like, it's similar to masking tape, but there's a design on it. And this is really good for adding a little decoration to your pages. I cannot find where this one starts. Here we go. There's this really nice pattern here. Sometimes you can also use this if your pages are falling apart or falling out. You can use these in the binding of your book. So I'm just going to put this here just to embellish that. If you have any scrapbooking things, that's great for today. Like those scissors that make really interesting designs, those are wonderful. Yeah, anything like that, glitter or anything like that is super fun to use also. So this might just be, something you try. While this is still wet, if you want to try to do like a monoprint type of a thing, let's see, I'll take a little more blue paint here. Get this a little thicker. And you might try pressing that down, maybe take a roller or something. And open it up and see if maybe you've got a cool thing. I mean, you could plan that a little better. Let's see. I'm gonna do a really big half a heart here. Maybe I'll throw some of this in. Some of this sparkly paint on there also. I'm gonna do this again. These rollers are really fun. If you don't have one, and I wouldn't expect you to necessarily, you could just use something like this also. Ta-da, have my little heart. So something you're going to encounter as you're working, like I have these 2 wet pages now. If I want to move on and work on something else, I have to deal with this. So 2 things, you could either just move this off to the side and work on a new thing, or take wax paper or parchment paper and put it in between the pages. I mean, this is probably going to affect the design a little bit too. And then you could do that and move into another part of the book, or close it up. But yeah, if you have to transport this or something, if you don't do that, your pages are going to stick together. And if you find, because sometimes when you work with acrylics in these book situations, if you find that they are sticking together, there's a product called cold wax medium. And I'm looking around to see if I have any. But you can wipe that, kind of buff the pages with the cold wax medium. And I think I have some over there. I can show that in a minute. So yeah, here's just one jumping off point. The next thing that's really fun to try is cutting things out and cutting into your book. Now, I have this really cool image of Isadora Duncan, and I might work with that. So what I'm going to do, another thing, if you have like cellophane or anything like this, you could use that in between your pages also. But it does get, depending on the paper of your pages, it can get really wet. So you want to be careful with that. Okay, so since I'm going to cut this out, I am going to put my cutting board. You could also use a piece of cardboard. I'm going to put that underneath this. I'm going to use an Xacto knife. This is where Xacto knives are awesome, because you can get in and cut around something. I couldn't do that with this pair of scissors. But when you're using an Xacto knife, be careful. Keep your fingers out of the way. And you always want to pull the knife in the direction you're cutting. So you don't want to, you're not going to be able to cut sideways. And also don't get too high up like this. Like sometimes people are trying to cut like that. You want to angle your knife and keep this hand away. I would hate to have you cut through something, cut through your hand. That would be horrible. So yeah, I have to pivot the knife as I go around things. So then I get this really wonderful cutout stuck here. And the sharper the blade, the easier and happier it's going to be, and you're going to be. So yeah, I have this now. So I could do so many things with this. And I also have this negative shape here. And I've already put this little decoration down. So that's just a fun kind of like peekaboo moment in your book. Some things you could do is you could use this like a stencil. And let's say you have another sheet of paper or something. I mean, you could do it with what's under, actually, I'll do it with what's underneath it. So again, I'm going to use something opaque. I'm going to use my blue again. And let's see, do I want to do this? So you have to think about, like, if you're going to do a stencil, so instead I'm taking something transparent because you're going to get it on your pages. So just think about that. Like if you're going to do this, you're also going to get it on this page. So I'm actually going to just use this blue with some sparkles in it. And then I've created a little bit of a stencil or an outline underneath there. So hopefully y'all can see that. You could use the original image and repeat with it. You could also try doing a print of sorts and put paint on. This is going to get a little bit messy and I'm a little worried, but take your paint, put it on the back side. We'll see if this works. Got to move fast. I'll do it on this side. I'm going to use my handy dandy little stencil, my little roller here, and use this almost as a way to print this. And then lift it back up before it dries. So again, I have a little bit of a ghost image there with her. And maybe I'll put this here now and just actually have that stay there. If you feel like paint is a adhesive, but if you feel like you need a little extra, you can use Elmer's glue, you can use your acrylic medium. But I find like as I start, it just becomes very intuitive the way I continue the process. I like to give myself a challenge where I don't throw anything away from the book. Like anything I cut out has to be used again somewhere in the book. So I see on here, Sarah suggested hole punch. So yeah, that's another great way to cut through this and make some designs. Let's see if I have actual. I don't have an actual hole punch, but I do have, where is it? There it is. This really awesome, it's called a Japanese hole puncher. And these were originally used for leather work, but there's like there's different nibs that you can change, but you can get different hole sizes, and you can punch through your paper and make holes. So again, if you're going to punch through something, put your cutting board, your cutting pad, whatever it is, put that underneath. Now I want to be careful here that I don't get that wet, or that I don't smudge that. So I have two pieces. So yeah, this is a really fun tool that just makes these holes in the paper. And with these holes, you can actually stitch. If you had like embroidery floss, you can stitch through there. But the holes are a really cool decorative element also. So yeah, that's another thing. Okay, I'm gonna set this off to the side for a minute and let this all kind of dry and deal. And I'm gonna work with a magazine now. So you could use like a nice sturdy magazine. This is a really awesome journal that features different artists. So it has some cool pictures in it. Oops. But like, yeah, so this could, and it's really sturdy, and I have like 100 of these. I have, okay, not literally 100, but I have about 10 of these. I have a lot of them. So I'm going to use this as an opportunity. Now, this is where I was saying earlier, like if you just want to paint and you're like, I don't want to deal with altering books. Something you can do is take some gesso. And just use that. I'm running out of gesso. Use that to cover the pages of your book, or like block out some of the text. Okay, I have a little bit of blue paint still in my brush here. And that's fine. But you could take your paint and just paint over some of this stuff and create like a little sketchbook for yourself. Especially if you use something that has a slightly matte surface finish, there's going to be a tiny bit of a tooth to the page. So when you draw on it, it will grab your pencil a little bit better. So yeah, you could just do this. If you have a nice, sturdy enough or big enough book or magazine, just make a little sketchbook for yourself. Oops. So this is gesso, but you could use white paint. Usually the gesso has a teeny bit of a tooth to it, which is why I like to use it. But yeah, so when that dries, I can draw on this, use marker, paint, but just use it like a sketchbook. You can also, something I really like to do, I'm going to go ahead and If you're using freezer paper between your pages, freezer paper is only slick on one side, so the other side's going to stick. So you'll want to fold it in half or make sure you have double-sided. Both sides are sticky. So we'll come back to this page. But another fun way that you could, I mean, you can also use your pictures, but if you want to obliterate this, you could take, again, I'm going to take some white paint here. This is actually, sorry, I keep saying paint. It's actually gesso. And I'm going to use some of this, where is it here? This is this paper napkin trick again. Thanks 100 times to Pat for this. And again, just take the one ply of the napkin. This is when you want fingernails. I can't grab it. Okay, here we go. Pull that apart. And I actually just want to use the design part of it. I'm going to save this other stuff to use to wipe off my brush or whatever. And take this part and lay it in here. It might be wet enough. The paint might still be wet enough. But if not, I'll go ahead and take a little bit of my glazing medium. And a big brush and just paint that on top, and that's going to adhere to my page. So you can use tissue paper or paper napkins for this effect. And what it does is it covers up whatever is on your page, and then you could use this to work on, or just use it as a cool design element in your book. I really like these two things together now. I'm going to fold this around. So yeah, so that's just like taking your paper and just obliterating one of the pages with a block of tissue paper is a fun thing too. Or even just taking paint and painting over a block of text with it. So this is an example of just taking the tissue paper here. And then I did a stencil on top of this. You might be able to see that. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to do a stencil on top of this blue page here that I've done. So just to demonstrate stencils a little bit, let's see, I have this, where did I go, this. I really like this design a lot. And this is a pre-made stencil. So it was purchased this way. Again, it was a gift to me, which is awesome. And so now I'm going to use that. I'm going to apply paint over this, and it will go through and it will only reveal the parts that are cut out. So one of the issues with working with stencils is sometimes your paint can be too fluidy, and when you paint over the stencil, it all kind of blobs together. I've discovered that if you take modeling paste, which is a really thick paste, it's kind of like, I almost like to think of it as frosting. It's like that. And it's also, when you hear the word paste, paste means it has stuff in it, so it's not gonna, it's gonna be opaque. It's gonna dry this color. So there's pastes and there's gels. Pastes dry opaque. So the thing about modeling paste is it's very, it's almost like stucco or something. Like, that's what I think of it as, like the stuff that you fill your, or spackle. Like, it's really thick and it will keep its form. So what I like to do, I'm going to try to show this to you, is I put some modeling paste right there. I'm going to mix some blue into it. This is ultramarine blue. Oh, I hope we'll be able to see it when I do the. So it's now like an opaque blue. But you see those peaks that it makes? Like, if I just left this like this, it would dry like that. And this does dry a little bit faster also than than your gel does. So now what I'm going to do, and this can get kind of difficult, but I'm going to take one of my old credit cards, one of my old cards, and I'm going to scoop that, and I'm going to just smear it over the top of this. Now, if you want to adhere your stencil down, like if it's moving around, you could take some tape and tape it down. I'm going to just try to be quick about this and just go for it here. Now, I didn't get it all covered, but let's see what happens. Oops, that's my phone. Okay, let's see if this worked. I'm going to lift it up. Yes, deep breath. So you can see it's a lot, when you use that modeling paste, it sets the paint up so it's not so like mushy, and it's not going to bleed as much, essentially. So you're going to get a crisper result with your stencil. So I really like to use it for that reason. It also, when it dries, you'll have an interesting texture to it. Other techniques that can work, I mean, the best way to do a stencil is spray paint, which I don't use in my studio, but that's a really good way, like a fine mist. Like if you're able to create a fine mist of paint and spray it over something, that's really good. Or if you have stamps, you could stamp on top of your stencil, and that's another good way. But I'll show you, like, if you use that down there. I'm going to do one on top of one of these pages. I'll I'll do one with regular paint now so you can see the difference. Let's see, I've got some burnt umber out. So this is like heavy body burnt umber. This should probably be okay, but the other thing you can do is just paint it on top. And a lot of times your actual stencil is really going to determine how well something's going to come out. Like this has really thin lines, so it's more likely that this is going to blob because this has a little more durability. It might not blob as much. Another thing is your actual paper that you're stenciling on. So there's stencil brushes you can get where you would go up and down like this. I don't have one. Oh, maybe another way that you can do a stencil. But I'm not sure. Let's see. Yeah, the dots, some of them blobbed a little bit. I'll show you. Still looks kind of cool though, but you see like these here blobbed. I still really like that look though a lot. These dots are really cool. Like if you overlap them, you can get a really neat effect also. So yeah, stencils are a really fun way to go. And then from there, let's see, I'm losing what I did. Okay. So I'm going to reveal a mistake that happened when I put that white paint down. Now I'm peeling off the freezer paper and it is tearing some of the paper up, but it kind of looks cool. So I'm going to just go with it. I'm going to use some of this as my adhesive and paint that down so you see what happened here. But it makes an interesting texture. I mean, this whole process of taking, like using your paint a little bit thicker, and then closing your book and opening it again and seeing what kinds of textures come out of it is a really interesting way to go also. So there are just so many other little things you can do to your book. I'm going to let this dry off to the side. Okay, some other things you can do is you can make like pockets in your book. If you have, oh, I want this to dry. There's really easy ways that you can make a pocket. One of the ways is you can actually, I'm gonna put this wax paper and close this. One of the ways you can do a pocket is you can actually just fold something over, adhere it here, and you have like a little side pocket. You can actually adhere your pages together on the sides and have a top pocket or a side pocket this way, that you can then slip things into. I think I'm going to try that for my next thing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some glue and just put it out on my palette. It's hard to see that. I'm going to take a new brush. If you have double-sided stick tape, you could also use that. And I'm going to brush this side and this side with glue. I mean, then this will be open right there, and I can slide things in there. Let's see. If I had a little book I made or something, I can just stick it in there. I could cut part of this away to indicate that something is in there. I could put like a little tag on this that sticks out that indicates that something is in this little pocket here. So that's one quick way of making a pocket. You can also take, just leave that. You can take a second piece of paper and glue it down here, and stick things in it that way. You can make, like if you take out pages, you could make little bookmarks and stuff with those and stick them in. You could even cut some slits in the paper that you could stick something into. So there's all sorts of opportunities to be interactive. I'm going to try to not ruin my little stencil here. But I do have a couple examples of pockets somewhere in this book. I also like just doing this kind of thing, like just these color block pages are really fun to try out. And then another thing I like doing is using the cutouts and putting tissue paper on the back side so that there's like the see-through kind of little cutout there with the tissue paper. I mean, as you're working, you just start to discover so many different things that you can do. And this is just a really basic introduction. So a seam, yes. And like I said, yeah, take your hole puncher, make holes with it, and use it to sew something. Yeah. Where is my... Oh, this is another fun exercise we did in one of my classes where you paint different color blocks down and then make these little cutout things that you can fold over. So you can see all these different colors, like color block stuff. And that's a really fun interactive thing that you can try. I cut these, and I have a bunch extra. So there's a lot of other things. There's cutouts and stuff you can do. If you think you want to learn more or you want to have another session like this, let me know and I can get more into pockets and making cutouts and a couple other little projects that you can try with the altered books, because there's just lots of possibilities out there. So I hope that this gave you an introduction to something. If you have any questions, I'll hang out for a couple more minutes to answer them. And in the meantime, I'll just show a couple more things here. We'll see what happened with this first. So if you've made like a spread of pages that you really like, take a picture of it and I'll put it on the blog. Or if you have a couple that you really like, let me know. So something to be aware of is I put the cellophane down, and this has happened now a couple times. It's lifting up. You see how it's tearing the actual page now. So it's probably best if you have a lot of paint to just leave the book open and let it dry, because you're going to get this. I know it's like, you want to keep working on stuff, but probably the best solution is just let it dry, work on something else while you're doing it. Jamie says, yes, more book ideas. Cool. Well, if I get some more people interested, I will. I'll do a couple more fun things because there's so much you can do with books. I mean, and like I said, it's a really good journal. It's like a good sketchbook practice also. And I like to just be really like low key. I'm not trying to make any super duper high end crafted books. It's just kind of a fun creative process and creative play for me when I work this way. All right. Well, if there's no more questions, I am going to sign off. I hope you all have a really awesome weekend. If you like this video, please share it with a friend. Please give a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel or tell a friend to subscribe. And yeah, enjoy the weekend. I will see you on Monday. And I think next week we're going to be working with figures. We're going to work with people, painting people. So we'll do Monday and Thursday. We'll dedicate the week to that. So maybe find some pictures of people doing things. Okay. Thanks, Connie. I'm glad that you liked these ideas. And like I said, if there's enough interest, I'll revisit this in a couple weeks. All right. Have fun, everyone. We'll see you in a few days. Bye.